ニューゲームプラスエキスポで発表したブラッドステインドカースオブザムーン2の情報をプロデューサーシナリオ監修の伊賀さんをお迎えして皆さんに最新情報をお伝えいたします。情報はブラスターマスター0シリーズの情報です。そして今日はガンボルトシリーズの新たな情報があります。こちらの VTR をご覧ください。どうぞ。
Hello.
Azure Striker Gunvolt 3.
So I was actually planning on making a video talking about potential plots for Azure Striker Gunvolt 3 next month, but those plans kinda got shot out of the water, which I am totally okay with. So for those of you who don't know, Inti Creates had a presence at this year's Bit Summit Gaiden event, where they announced Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, and this trailer is amazing. There is a lot to talk about. So for this video, I figured I'd take a look at the trailer and talk about what I really liked, what I didn't like, what I think we can expect to see, and maybe try to predict the plot of this new game. I should mention that this video won't be super scripted. I usually write a script before videos, but I didn't get the chance to do it this time because this announcement came out of the blue, so I'm just going to be giving my thoughts as I have them. Without further ado, let's begin. While it's not exactly the most exciting thing to talk about, I think our natural starting point should be the UI. We haven't seen much of it, but it looks really clean. I'm loving the minimalist style that it went with. It's definitely more Luminous Avenger X than Gunvolt 2. It seems really well suited to the new character Kieran's playstyle, which involves projectile cards and sword swings, but it's also used for Gunvolt's gameplay, which is a little odd. I don't know if that's because the game is early in development, or if we're going to see a lot of changes to Gunvolt's playstyle. Speaking of which, Gunvolt's new playstyle. It doesn't look bad. This is one of the changes that I'm a lot more skeptical about, because the gameplay still looks fun, but if you've watched my other video, you know that I'm a big fan of the flash field system. It's one of my favorite in gaming. However, I do have an idea of how they can achieve both this new gameplay system and the classic flash field system that we all know and love. You see, in Gunvolt 1, your options for offensive customization were fairly limited. All you could really mess with was the bolt that you used. In Gunvolt 2, you could also adjust the clip you used, which led to a lot of wacky customization options, although I really only used Cerberus. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I think it's possible that maybe they're expanding on the offensive customization options further so that you can adjust your flash field type. This could also allow for some more possibilities as far as plot goes, though I'll get into that more later. In terms of his new design, I really wasn't a fan at first, but it's kinda growing on me. The shoulder pads in the white seem kinda goofy, but that's what I thought of the GV2 design's neck brace, and that ended up being one of my favorite designs ever. So we'll see how it goes. As for our other series protagonist, the lack of Copen in this trailer is kind of concerning to me, but I'm really not all that worried about it. Inti knows that he's a major player and a fan favorite in this franchise. They're not just gonna drop him like dirty chonies after giving him his own spin-off game. Although, the role that he plays in this story does concern me. I'd be okay with him being like an unlockable character or something, but if he's relegated to a boss fight or a cameo, I'd find that pretty disappointing. I feel like 3 characters is feasible for an indie platformer like this. Besides, wouldn't it be so cool to have all of the primary colors represented on the character select screen? Ugh, that'd be oddly satisfying. Speaking of all 3 primary colors, the new protagonist looks awesome. Honestly, I was hoping for a mix of Blade and Himishiro from Azure Striker Gunvolt Fleeting Memories as our new playable character, but Kieran looks really cool. As your resident Zero from Mega Man X fan, I'm always excited for characters in platformers that use swords, and her design looks really good. I was hoping for green to be the color that would round off the trinity of colors that we have, but yellow looks really good, especially on Kieran's design, and I'm glad we have a hair color that's not blindingly bright. Now to get more into speculation, I'm gonna start with Kieran's buddy, the lightning dog thing. Based on the fact that it bears a striking resemblance to GV, no pun intended, and the fact that it seems like it allows her to use an electric attack in the trailer, I think this is based off of a Raiju. I probably butchered that, but for those of you who don't know, Raiju are the companions of the Shinto god of lightning, Raijin. While Gunvolt has always been more of a sci-fi franchise, I wouldn't be surprised if they started pulling from magic in this one. Technically, Septima is magic, and Kieran's design is based off of that of a Shrine Maiden, so this is the perfect opportunity. Fun fact for those of you who don't know, all of the Gunvolt playable protagonists are based off of the 4 symbols, which are 4 mythological creatures in China. They're famous for guarding the world, and they include the Azure Dragon of the East, the White Tiger of the West, the Vermilion Bird of the South, and the Black Tortoise of the North. Those correspond to Gunvolt, Copen, Kieran, and someone we don't know about yet. Now to talk about Gunvolt himself, and I think it's time to address the elephant in the room. Why is Gunvolt working for Sumeragi? I've actually got 2 hypotheses on this, so I'll talk about them both. I'll mention the one that I think is less likely first. To start, we know that Sumeragi is capable of creating artificial life. For those of you who don't know, Jewel was not born, she was created in a lab by Sumeragi to host the Muse Septima. Now, Jewel's genetic sequence wasn't based off of a prior human being, but I think it's possible that the Gunvolt that we see in the trailers, the one working for Sumeragi, is actually an imperfect clone of Gunvolt himself. That might be why his powers are so different. In addition, it could partially explain why Copen isn't present in this trailer. Speaking technically, neither is Gunvolt. Of course, that is the theory that I believe less in, because it's kind of out of left field for Gunvolt. Now I'm going to talk about the one that I have more faith in. I think it's safe to say that most of us would assume that Gunvolt would not work with Sumeragi willingly, especially not after what they did to Jewel. However, Sumeragi is a conglomerate with a lot of reach, so I think it's possible that they're manipulating Gunvolt into working for them via a combination of threats, exploitation, and good old-fashioned mind control. To go more in depth, I believe that Sumeragi is threatening Gunvolt with violence against Quinn and Zhao. In addition, they may be using some kind of copy jewel or a hologram to manipulate Gunvolt's guilt so that he works with them. Lastly, I would not put it past Sumeragi to use good old-fashioned mind control on Gunvolt. It may explain why his powers are so wildly different in this trailer. He can't exactly control them in this state, so they're more powerful offensively, but he's left open for attack without the flash field. Now to move on to the next question, where is Copen during all of this? We know from his Gunvolt 2 ending that he is no longer living at Kamizono Manor over his conflict between his ideals about adepts and his love for his sister, who he found out was an adept. Now, while this is a big deal for Copen's character arc, I don't think it's enough for him to be swayed to working with Gunvolt, which I think is the endgame for this franchise. Fortunately, this is a franchise that has a dynamic duo that has been recently introduced and is generally well liked by the community that could go to show Copen that his worldview is flawed. The only problem is, they're in a different dimension. Now, we have seen adepts with the power to warp reality in this franchise before, and if this bad guy that we're facing is strong enough to warrant a Raiju visiting, I think it's quite possible that they could send Copen to another dimension where he could meet Ix and Blade from Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger Ix. I think this is advantageous from a narrative standpoint for a couple of reasons. One, it would be really cool to see Copen fight his otherworldly counterpart. Two, I would love it if we could get some integration between Gunvolt Chronicles and mainline Gunvolt, even though it's pretty early in both franchises' history. And 3, I think this would be a great opportunity to shift Copen's worldview so that he could ally himself with Gunvolt and Kirin for the final battle. This is absolutely my most shot-in-the-dark, ridiculous prediction, but I don't care. I think it would be really cool, and I would be really excited. I hope this happens. Lastly, I want to talk about this new character Kirin's role in the story. So far, based on her Shrine Maiden persona and her Septima, which allows her to seal other people's Septimas, she seems more like a peaceful force than Gunvolt and Copen. In addition, her position as a Shrine Maiden would put her in a prime position to receive guidance and assistance from this Raiju creature. Lastly, if my theory about her receiving providence from this Raiju creature is correct, the threat that they may be facing in Gunvolt 3 could be stronger than anything the Gunvolt cast has ever fought before, Nova, Zonda, and Teseo included. Because of all this, my theory is that the game is going to focus on Kirin as she journeys to try to bring both Gunvolt and Copen to a point where they can not only face this threat, but face it together as allies and friends. In my opinion, this would leave the Gunvolt franchise in a very advantageous position. Having all 3 protagonists in a position where they can work together would be very handy for future games and crossovers. Also, having these games in a position where if they want to, they can keep using Gunvolt as the main protagonist, but if they don't want to, they can change the focus to Kirin, would be very advantageous, like they did with Nero in Devil May Cry. Lastly, I just really want to see Gunvolt and Copen work together. I have wanted that for the longest time, and if this game can give me that, I'll be very happy. Thank you all for watching. I know this is a very niche topic, and this probably won't get very many views, even by my standards, but it really is a subject that I'm passionate about, so I appreciate anybody who sat all the way through. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I generally try to post content about once every 2 weeks, and I talk about all kinds of gaming stuff. This is just the topic that I've chosen for the last 2 weeks, so there will be more variety. If you like my way of speaking, please consider following me on Twitter at Dante4Smash. I generally post pretty consistently, and I will be talking about Gunvolt 3 a lot, so if you want to be in the know, just follow me. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people. First off, at Chromakaze on Twitter. We discussed a lot of speculation about this game before I made this video, and I was very thankful for his input. I also want to thank Inti Create's staff, Jess, Andrew, and Matt. They've been very kind to me in the Bit Summit Discord server. They've been very patient about all my questions, and I just want to say thank you very much. You guys are a great influence on the community. And lastly, I want to thank the people who made these Rivals of Aether workshop mods. I will link to these in the description below. If you liked or didn't like what I had to say, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you. Goodbye.